Hi, it's Chris Rue here, and I'm really looking forward to helping you become the leader that you want to be. Today in this video I wanted to talk to you about facing into your leadership challenges and offer you a technique that can help you do this without appearing judgmental and dictatorial. As a leader, we face the prospect of a number of leadership choices throughout each and every day. And each one of those choices represents a chance for us to step into dealing with something or just passing it over and come back another day, which often never happens. This is the incubator of indecision and prevarication, and it reminds me of the performance management challenge and principle of tackling challenges early. We see it most obviously in healthcare scenarios. Cut the cancer out, all the surgeons would have us say. Catch it early before it takes hold. And this can, in a similar way, apply to dealing with people who apparently may be underperforming or are demonstrating a change in their performance and behaviours. I have a personal belief that as human beings we are very sensitive creatures to the actions and behaviours of others. In short, we notice things. We notice if someone isn't quite themselves today. We notice if a colleague continually seems to shy away from a particular task or activity. We notice if someone else is always seeming to get that sexy new project. As individuals, we notice all this, but often we look to our leaders to actually do anything about it, and particularly about behaviours that may be disrupting the nature and effectiveness of the group. This represents for the leaders a choice, the choice I referred to earlier. For many leaders, I'm sure you already have an instinct, a feeling, or even evidence that someone is working or performing differently. The question is, what do you do about it? If you leave this and hope it goes away, or gets better on its own, then you're likely to be disappointed. And also you may actually start seeing secondary effects from not dealing with the issue in the first place. Which brings me nicely to my point in this video. Tackle issues early. Let's imagine you have a member of your team who had been working really well, but in the last month or so, their performance has become a little erratic. They seem to be arriving at meetings a little late and a little unprepared. A deadline or two is slipping. Your performance management strategy might be to notice it and maybe ask a general, "Are you okay?" and receive a general and unspecific, "Yeah, no, fine, thanks. And you?" And then you leave it for a week. The following week, you may have noticed that very little has changed. They're still turning up late for meetings and another deadline has been missed. And in passing again, you ask again, Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? And receive another general and unspecific, "Yeah, no, I'm fine, thanks for asking. And you?" And you leave it again for another week. Maybe you leave it for 2 more weeks and still nothing has changed. And finally, you challenge this person in some form of explosive, potentially confrontational event, apparently out of the blue. You might, having gone from nothing, you may then suddenly go, "Well, what's going on? This really isn't good enough. You're continually late, missing your deadlines and permanently disorganised. If you don't buck your ideas up, we'll find ourselves in a disciplinary conversation. I don't want to have that." Now, I'm hamming it up, obviously, here, but I'm sure you get my drift. You may feel that your actions earlier on in asking "Are you okay?" are demonstrating that you're paying attention, but as likely as not to your colleague, it's just as likely that they feel like you're just being polite. Imagine what would have happened if you'd have tackled this early, and at the end of the first week, a quiet but specific conversation relating to what you observed could be really quite effective, but also very helpful to both parties. So I noticed that you've been late into a couple of meetings this week and that you've missed one of your deadlines. Is there something wrong or a problem that I can help you with? Yeah, well, you know what, we've had an unexpected childcare problem this week, which is likely to go on for a bit. Until I can find alternative provision, I'm sorry, but I'm going to look after my 2 kids at home now, all by myself. I'm sure I'll get it sorted in a couple of weeks now. Now this all makes sense, and perhaps you can reschedule some work or agree a revised plan to support your colleague and get the deadlines on the project met at the same time. And obviously you can see the difference. Also notice the assumptions that were made in the first one. We are very good at creating our own narrative about what may or may not be going on, when the truth, if addressed, can neatly clarify a situation and resolve a problem that otherwise could have turned into a major incident. This general principle is sound both in the short term and in the long term, as it can effectively stop small issues becoming major performance problems. Of course, inaction can effectively be seen as condoning the new behaviour that you're now concerned about. So there are many reasons why we should tackle this early. As an addition to this, people do ask what is the best way to do this without appearing judgmental. So here's the technique I'm talking about. I lean back into a simple coaching technique wrapped around the phrase, "What I observe you doing is," or "My experience of you is." Simply put, this is the idea of acting as a mirror to your colleague. So rather than saying, "I think you've got a problem with timekeeping and doing a hard day's work," which is clearly highly judgmental and very much inaccurate, the suggestion of replaying the behaviour that you observe, which then allows this to become data that both you and the colleague can understand and explain, is much more positive and constructive, rather than putting them in a situation where they feel they have to mount a defence against the judgmental comment, which is of course much more adversarial. Quite likely, in fact, to act to break down the relationship, certainly not to build it up. So hopefully that all makes sense, and you can start applying this now. Think about your people around you and any particular person whom you have an issue with. Think about it. Have you actually been specific in telling them what specifically the issue is? You'll probably know the phrase, "If you don't tell me what's wrong, I can't help you." Leaders aren't psychics, but they can create conditions where it's safer and easier for people to start communicating about what's really going on for them. And if you act on what you hear in a supportive but action-orientated manner, you start to rebuild trust, as well as dealing with the immediate issue. So set aside some time. The corridor is not the place for this conversation. Consider when your next objectives review is, or if it's more urgent, then consider a separate meeting but off-site or over a coffee but not in the normal work environment, and apply these principles. If you want to go into greater depth on this, look out for our online training courses and my free training that can be found on chrisrue.com. As this is essentially creating a feedback loop, you will get some instant feedback from the person you're applying it to. But remember, the goal here is to build the relationship so that you can support this person, help improving themselves and create a more fulfilling workplace, which will significantly improve their activities and results that they achieve. This also speaks to the principle of adopting a state of unconditional positive regard, which can be very helpful here. And I will expand more on that in the next video. But by adopting this more precise approach, you will certainly gain clarity both for yourself and your colleague. We all make mistakes, and if we catch things early, we can help others avoid much larger ones and achieve far greater things as we feel supported and engaged. Indeed, scientists look for mistakes all the time. You don't learn from getting it right all the time. And in deliberately developmental organizations, which you may have heard of, they take this principle to the highest level, thriving on a feedback culture. And if you investigate such organizations, not only do you find employees who've had far greater level of fulfillment in the workplace, but this translates into faster, more responsive and better results for the teams and the organization. So do let me know how you get on with it. I'd love to hear how it works for you. If you found this helpful and would like to learn more leadership tips and techniques, then click on the link below to get to my free leadership training to be found on chrisrue.com, where I'm sharing a few of my tools and techniques I've picked up over the years. These designed to help you become a more resilient and effective leader. In the meantime, let me thank you for watching. I wish you luck going forward with your challenges, and thank you for letting me help you become the leader that you want to be. Bye for now.